but this one kind of stings. I have to admit. Khalil Ahmad is leaving Penn State to go to Syracuse and reunite with a good friend, a good colleague in Fran Brown. I had a whole podcast devoted to what kind of havoc that Fran Brown would cause coming to Syracuse to be the head coach. And this was one of the consequences of this, being able to pull guys from different staffs that he's had previous great relationships with. Who is Khalil Ahmad for some people that might not be familiar? Well, he's one of the best recruiting specialists on this staff. That is everything that he's devoted to. Ahmad, I would say, is responsible for all the success, not all of it, but a lot of the success that Penn State has seen in New Jersey these past few cycles here. So now he's moving to Syracuse, probably to take on at least a comparable role. Maybe he probably gets a raise. I would imagine if he's going to take this job, it's not just about the relationship he has with Coach Brown. It's about getting a raise, an increase in status as well. But he was one of the better, if not the best recruiter on staff for the guy solely devoted to that part of James Franklin's program.
Yeah, just to answer your question. So he's at Penn State. He was, I'm trying to make sure I have it, recruiting coordinator for personnel recruitment. And this is according to Emily Liker of Syracuse.com. He'll be the executive director of personnel recruiting. So basically jumping from coordinator to executive director, which if you work in corporate America, a coordinator going to be executive director, those are two very drastic differences when it comes to salary, and certainly when it comes to significance and importance and things that you're doing. So definitely an upgrade for him as far as, job title and things like that. Yeah. Syracuse, I mean, Fran Brown, they get Elijah Robinson, the former Penn State player and former Penn State GA that was the defensive line coach at Texas A&M. He was going to Syracuse to become the defensive coordinator. Bunch of Texas A&M guys jumped in the portal today. For those that followed recruiting in the past, Fidel Diggs, who was a defensive end from Camden, which is where Elijah Robinson's from. He jumps in the portal. We'll see if he lands at Syracuse. If Elijah Robinson somehow gets him to fall into Syracuse, I mean, hats off. But Fran Brown, Elijah Robinson, now hiring Khalil Ahmad, they are going to recruit.
I don't like this. I don't like it at all.
The bejeebies off at Syracuse. Now, here's why I will push back. I don't expect Syracuse to so much impact. Like, this isn't that bad for Penn State. There might be a guy, maybe two, maybe, you look at someone like Josiah Brown, who's in the class right now, who was, high 3-star, low 4-star, fortunately torn his ACL, but maybe they're able to talk that type of kid. I'm not saying Josiah Brown himself, but that type of kid. So it might affect Penn State a little bit. If you're Pitt, if you're Rutgers, if you're Maryland, if you're Boston College, this is an absolute disaster hire, because Fran Brown, Elijah Robinson by themselves are going to, recruit.
They will torment them
in New Jersey. And with Khalil Ahmad coming in to, be basically the head of recruiting the same way that Penn State, they have like Andy Frank and Kenny Sanders and guys like Justin King back in the day. They're going to cause a lot of issues in the Northeast, but specifically within New Jersey, because Fran Brown's from Camden, Elijah Robinson's from Camden, and then Khalil Ahmad, I believe this is from North Jersey, which is where you get like your Don Bosco Preps and Paramus Catholics and places like that, where Rashawn Gary and Jerome Peppers and players like that played. So I expect Syracuse to be more of an issue for, those lower end Northeast schools, again, the Marylands, Boston colleges, places like that, more than Penn State. But they're certainly, I think that Syracuse is going to pop up for a guy here or there for Penn State. Certainly more than we've seen in the past. I'm trying to think of the last guy. At Penn State, for really dedicated, those of us that have been following Penn State recruiting for a while. Ishaq Williams back in like the class of 2011 was a borderline 5-star, maybe a 5-star that Syracuse was super involved with. Thomas Hawley back in the day. So Penn State and Syracuse did not cross paths all that often with the type of player they were getting. But I feel like, Fran Brown and Elijah Robinson will at least have their foot in the door with these guys. So
and that's my point. It's not going to nuke Penn State recruiting, but it's certainly going to turn up the heat here, because, and I'll give a very vague example, but Jalen Matthews was formerly committed to Penn State's class of 2025. He's not, Penn State's still in his top group of schools, but he's entertaining Rutgers and Texas and Georgia. And that makes sense because he's one of the best tackles in all of the country. But then I said, and then Jalen posted about Syracuse and saying, hey, I'm interested in them as well. And I said, look at the impact that that Fran Brown is already having. And he reposted that. So he agrees. So if the 5-star top offensive tackle in the nation agrees with my crazy thoughts about Fran Brown, possibly just tipping the scales a little bit away from the Northeastern powerhouses of recruiting. Yeah, that is very true. So, is it an extreme that every single Penn State commit is going to flip to Syracuse? No, because Syracuse lacks in NIL. Syracuse lacks in facilities. Penn State is actually better than Syracuse in those categories, which is still a win for them. But will Fran Brown probably flip a couple of 4-stars here and there and be a little bit a thorn in the side of James Franklin and Penn State? Absolutely.
I will say, to end it on a positive, though, Elijah Robinson, is a guy in Penn State lore of any time defensive line job opened, it was always, Elijah Robinson. And even when Manny Diaz got hired as defensive coordinator, there was a lot of Elijah Robinson buzz as well. So to end on, a positive note of spinning this, why it's a good thing for Penn State, I do like the idea of Elijah Robinson going to Syracuse, getting his feet wet as a defensive coordinator. Because if he's a guy we'll see what happens with Manny Diaz and Duke. That situation's getting a little not great right now. But if Manny Diaz can stay around a year, maybe 2 more years, and Elijah Robinson can show at Syracuse, not only as a recruiter, because I don't think anyone doubts that if Elijah came to Penn State that he would recruit tremendously well, but as a defensive coordinator, if he can prove that he can do it in game, there's your hopeful, future Penn State defense coordinator. So he and James Franklin definitely have a good relationship. I think that much is obvious. So always good when they, go somewhere that hopefully won't hurt Penn State. I don't think Syracuse will hurt them too much as far as recruiting and things like that. But like you said, just a bit of a nuisance. They're going to have to fight a little bit harder for certain guys. So we'll see what happens. But
I mean, Fran Brown has been described as the best overall recruiter in the nation. So just take that. That's not just 1 or 2 people in the college football stratosphere. There's a lot of people that back that up and say that Fran Brown, at a minimum, is top 3 in terms of individual recruiters.
His press conference, because it was good. I mean, he's obviously speaks for itself, but he was like how he's here for life. He's at Syracuse for life. And then
I did not see those comments, but yeah, whoa.
Well, then 2 minutes later, he said that when his daughter turns 12, he's done coaching, and his daughter's like 3. So I don't know what that I don't know what that means. He also said that money, he is from Camden, which is a rougher area, and that he's already set financially. He's fine. But then also said that the reason he left Georgia for Syracuse was money. So it's like, I don't know. It's just, it's like, Fran, just be a little more consistent with what you're going with here. Either you're staying here for life and money doesn't matter, or money does matter and you're going to be out in 9 years. But really good hire for Syracuse.
Yeah. I think he'll operate the way that you need to in this age of college football you need to be a CEO. You don't need to be a true head coach, X's and O's head coach to be successful. I know some people might debate that with me. That's fine. And that's for another conversation because we're going to wrap it up here, Pat. But I think that Fran Brown is going to operate more as a CEO, elements of what James Franklin likes to do, because that is what will succeed at Syracuse in this case. And I think he'll let the other people, the X's and O's guys, do their jobs. And that's where they will lead to success. But